Welcome to the KF4AH repeater PL110.9.
Calling the Elmer Net, calling the Elmer Net, calling the Elmer Net. This is Chris, KB2SKP, and I'm located in Lexington Park, Maryland. I'll be your net control this evening for the 636th running of Grant's Elmer Net. Is there any emergency or priority traffic for the net? The Elmer Net meets each week on this repeater group and is an independent and directed net held to promote friendship and fellowship among amateur radio operators with an emphasis on answering questions that a new operator might have. Questions or topics for the net can be directed to net control via email at Kilo Bravo 2 Sierra Kilo Papa or KB2SKP at ARRL.net or post on the Grant's Elmer Net Facebook page. This is a directed net, and I'll start off with the net check-ins, followed by any announcements, a topic of the day, and a round or two of comments and questions. I'll pause occasionally during the comments for late and additional check-ins. In and out check-ins are always welcome. Just let us know you're listening, and all amateurs are welcome to check in. Are there any stations with announcements for the net tonight? Please come now. Okay, let's get started with check-ins for tonight's Elmer Net. Please use the hesitation method when checking in to allow the link repeaters to key up and to minimize doubling. So first, let's check, see if we got any Echo Link check-ins. Any persons on Echo Link, please come now. Okay, hearing none. Are there any mobile, portable, or emergency-powered stations wishing to check in? I'm beginning to wonder if this thing's even on. Okay, so let's go to our regular check-ins. Please come now one at a time with your call sign, name, and location. This is Kilo 54, November, Hotel November. Go, Calio.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 7 Alpha Whiskey Charlie, Rachel in Lexington Park.
This is Kilo Charlie 3, Quebec, Quebec Delta. This is Eric in Prince Frederick, Maryland.
This is Kilo Charlie 8, Victor Foxtrot November, Jeff in King George County.
Okay, let's go down the list of who I got so far. So far I've got KM4 NHN, Joe, good evening. I've got Kilo Foxtrot 7 Alpha Whiskey Charlie. Thanks, Rachel, for checking in there. I got KC3 QQD Eric and KC8 VFN Jeff. And there was another station checking in at the end. I thought it sounded a little like Jim, KB1YZ, but couldn't be sure. So if you want to give it another try, give it a shot now, please. Nope, just not holding the repeater hard enough. If you can find another location or maybe bump up the power a little bit, we can try again to try to catch in a couple minutes. But I heard an Oscar and a Bravo, I thought, in there, but that was about it. So any additional stations wishing to check in, please come now.
Oscar 4, Charlie Uniform Foxtrot, Reba at Locust Point.
Okay, I picked up Reba, KO4CUF, but there was another station Dublin. Would you come again, please? KM3, KUN, good evening, Chris. Okay, got you that time, Mike. KM4, entry KUN. Okay, any additional stations? Okay, we'll roll with what we got, and we'll do another check here in a little bit. So good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's staying cool and staying hydrated and staying out of the heat as much as possible. Looks like we got one more day, and then Friday looks like it'll be a little bit better, and then Saturday I think we're going to get rain, so that might actually be a good thing. Supposed to get some thunderstorms in through St. Mary's County tonight, so I don't know what it's going to be like on the Virginia side, but might want to buckle up. They're saying it might be a little gusty and some downpours, so we might get some flash flooding there, but we definitely could use a little bit of some watering out there on the plants. As far as other announcements go, I don't really have anything going on. The St. Mary's County Air Race Group's going to be pulling the trailer out of the driveway of Pete's house and bringing it over to St. Mary's Hospital on the 20th to do a little familiarization of what's in the trailer, how to set it up. Not really going to do an activation or any kind of an exercise, just get a familiarization of what it's like. And then see how things go from there. We are looking at potentially doing a kit build day for power poles, and maybe looking at maybe building some kind of distribution block with power poles. I don't know. We're tinkering around with some different ideas. So that's going to kind of be the topic tonight is power connections, good, bad, ugly, and what your thoughts are. I did post on Facebook a picture of a jumper I made up that I stole from one of the guys on a KM4 ACK had actually done a video of a guy that's selling these things for like $15 or something like that, where you can go from the Yaesu splices, and you just put the wire in, crimp down on it, and just snap down on it, rather. No tools required, just strip the wires back with a pocket knife, slide them in there, crimp them down, and you got power poles right on the other end. So it's a great field emergency repair kit, or a way to get power to something that you got power poles on. One of the other things I made up while I was sitting here tinkering around with my kit, I made up a bunch of jumpers, or not really jumpers so much, I guess you call them jumpers. They've got ring terminals of different sizes, different gauge wire, spade connectors, they all go into power poles, so that if I get into a situation where, show up on a site to do something and there's nothing but a power supply, it's got no wires attached to it, and just unscrew the nuts in the back, slip these ring terminals over it, and I got power poles at all my equipment. That's what I've got on them. So it's a good handy thing. And we actually ran into a situation last Saturday, after breakfast with the hams. We went over to the museum, and Pete was going to set up an HF radio and play on the long wire that's on top of the roof there. So he put his analyzer on there and pulled out the radio, and he had forgotten the battery or power supply. Well, there was a uninterruptible, one of those APC 120 volt uninterruptible power blocks, and inside that's a 12 amp 10 amp hour battery. So I was going to say, hey, we just pull this thing out. If I had those jumpers, we could have slid the spades right on there, and he could have been on the air in minutes. So that's why I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this. So I made up a bunch of them, and I kind of banded them together and threw them in a go bag, and I'll probably forget that I have them. But it's a good idea to think ahead on different ways to be adaptable to the circumstances or surroundings you're in. As far as testing goes, the volunteer group over here is going to be holding tests on the 28th, I believe. Yeah, July 28th at noon over at the Hollywood Fire Department. And, all are welcome. I don't think we've got anybody signed up just yet, but anybody who's looking for, somebody who's looking to upgrade or take the test, pass the word around, we'll get them signed up and get their license on them. And one last announcement for those who just happen to be dialing around or having older, memory channels saved in your radio. If you happen to stumble across 145 or 146.350, it's going to go back on the air. Gene's got it at his house right now. He's going to be putting it up on the air at the Hollywood Fire Department and taking the 2-meter DMR repeater out of there and putting it over on his house. Now they got a frantic call from D-Mark or T-Mark to keep the coordinated pair down here in St. Mary's, so it's going to be another repeater. It's going to be on the air from the firehouse there, so and that should have pretty good coverage. I think the antenna's at about 110 feet from there. So I think that's about it, and I'm sure that's probably enough. You guys are tired of hearing me talk. Does anybody have any other announcements or anything for the net? Okay, hearing none, let's get started here. Joe, our topic of the night is power. Lack of, how you do it, jumpers, solar, whatever you're doing. But specifically, we're talking about different types of connectors and what's your favorite, which one's your least favorite, which ones won't you ever use again. I'm sure there's quite a list of those. I know I've got a bunch of them. But let's talk to KM4 NHN. What you got out there, Joe?
Actually, they're power poles. I use them a lot on my portable. I got them on my portable setup, and they're easy to connect, and unconnect too if I have to. And in fact, they are actually probably the easiest ones that I've seen, and I can't think of any that I dislike. For coax, probably my favorite connector for the coax is the BNC connector because of the quick connection stuff. I wish they'd still set up HPs with BNCs instead of the SMAs. That would make life a lot easier. Well, back over to you, Chris, and I thank you for running the net. KM4NHN.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I agree. The power poles seem to be the do-all, end-all. They just work. I mean, they're simple to assemble. They're universal for different wire gauges. You can get the different plugs, and they all seem to fit, and they just seem to work. You just don't want to mess with something that's that easy. My least favorite's the one that looks like a T that Yaesu keeps putting on their radios on their mobile rigs. But the one before that was the one I guess I liked before that, but became such a pain in the neck, was the little bullet plugs on one side, and had a bullet plug on one side and a female on the other side, and you couldn't mess them up, that's for sure. But sometimes they get loose, or they'd be a pain in the neck. Either they're so tight you couldn't get them together or apart, or they were so loose they just fall apart. So that's one of the things I do like about the power poles, is they stay together, and you can just get that little clip that goes in there, or they just put a tie wrap around them, and they stay well on there. Yeah, and I completely agree with the whole. I don't know why the industry hasn't come up with going with BNCs on the top of walkie-talkies. It would just make so much more sense instead of going with the male SMA, the female SMA, all kinds of different ones they got. But good stuff. Anyway, Joe, you take care of yourself. Stay cool. And thanks for being here tonight. Give our best, Marcia, and we'll catch you on down along. And we'll be clear with KM4NHN. Then Rachel, KF7AWC. I'll have to get out of the way so she can talk. What you got on your mind there, Rachel?
Well, good evening, Chris, and everyone on the net. Thank you so much for running the net tonight, Chris, and for all the operators who come in and help out with the Grand Elmer's net. It's always appreciated. Yeah, thanks for this topic. I actually learned a lot from that experience that we had over at the museum with Pete, because I've seen Christopher do all these power poles and do all these connections, and I'm kind of looking at him like, I don't get it. You should just be able to take your crap and plug it in. Well, apparently with ham radio, it's not that straightforward. So I got a big taste of that on Saturday when they needed a battery connector and they didn't have one. So they actually had to leave the venue, go back home, and pick up more gear so that they could plug their radio in. So having that universal connector, or having those jumpers with you, certainly I got it then, and it really made a lot of sense. So I hope that there's some good questions that come out on the Grand Elmer's Net Facebook page. If you guys want any pictures, examples, or anything like that, we certainly can get those up there for you. And again, it's about making everything as user-friendly as we possibly can. And like I said, I learned a lot from it, so I hope you guys are too. That's all I have for tonight. And also just a quick reminder that the St. Mary's County Amateur Radio Group, Amateur Radio Association, SMARA, is doing their Tailgate Fest again this year, and it is Saturday, October 12th. I am working on the flyer now, and hopefully at the beginning of September, you guys are going to be seeing it in the mail. So I look forward to that, and I hope to see you there. This is KF7AWC, back to net.
Well, thanks, Rachel. Rachel? Yeah, it's we actually what really started this was actually field day. One of our newer hams, well, he's been around for a little while, but he was new to the club. Abe, he had come out to field day, and he hadn't really thought about power poles or really heard about them too much. Then he saw that basically, well, not basically, everything we had was hooked up to him, and he had a couple of battery-operated implements of destruction that he wanted to play with, and I had my kit there because that's what I do. And I made up a couple of jumpers for him, and it was a cathartic experience for him. It was like, oh my God, where's this been all my life? So now he's very enthusiastic about this, and he's going to have them all around his house, probably driving his wife crazy. But they really are universal. They're great to have, and instead of people going out and spending the money for the crimping tool and all that kind of stuff, if you just need one or two of them made up, I've got the stuff. Just let us know and we can meet up, and I can make up a couple on the fly. I think I've gotten it down to about 30 seconds per connector now. It just goes that quick. I got the stripper, the crimper, the everything. Just makes it real quick and easy. And for years I soldered them, but I've got, now that the crimping tool's on there, I've tried pulling my heck, and I've actually run to breaking the wire before I could pull it out of the little tab. So anyway, thanks Rachel. Thanks for the reminder on the Tailgate Fest. We look forward to seeing all the literature on that and getting some tables reserved. So we'll be clear with KF7AWC. This is Chris, KB2SKP for the weekly the weekly Grant's Elmer Net. Are there any additional stations wishing to check in?
This is KB1YZ, the Echo Link.
KM4KAF.
Okay, Jim, we picked you up on Echolink, KB1YZ. So since you're on Echolink, we'll let you go next. How are you tonight? And I know you know what we're talking about with power poles and such. What's your favorite connector or power connector, and which one's your least favorite?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Chris, back in the old days of my electronic experimentation and beginnings of TV and ham radio, I used alligator clip leads for almost everything. And I've made a few arcs and sparks in my day, but power poles prevent all that. And I recommend power poles with a fusible link included within the power pole lead. And I think you can even make one up yourself, or you can buy them already made. So that's my input. This is KB1YZ.
All right, Jim. Well, since you opened the door, I'm going to ask the age-old question. Is it better, worse, necessary, unnecessary to have a fuse on both the power and the ground wire?
Yeah, Chris, the professional ones I've seen are both the ground and the positive lead. But I normally would only put them on the positive lead. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm kind of old school too. That's the way that I was brought up. I was never taught one way or the other. I'll have to dig through. I found an article that explained why they started putting them on the ground side as well. And I don't recall what the actual reasoning was for it. I figured it doesn't hurt. It's extra protection, I guess. I don't know, but I'll have to dig that up, and I'll have to post that on Grant's Elmer Net, because I think Abe was asking that question the other night. It's like, do I need to put fuses on it? And should it just be one or two, or how do we do it? But good stuff. Well, thanks for being here tonight, Jim. Appreciate you checking in, and Yep, I've got. I still have a bunch of alligator clips laying around, and there's a couple of them that have a few ozone marks. We'll leave it at that. So I've contributed to the ozone a couple times by doing that, and yeah, the power poles are definitely a safer way to go, but definitely fuses are definitely warranted. But thanks for being here tonight, Jim. Jim, I appreciate you being here. We'll be clear with KB1YZ. And I got the peanut gallery cracking up behind me here. Okay, so that brings us down to Eric. KCQ3QQD. Good evening there. How's it going over to Quack Shack there, Eric?
Good evening, Chris. Thanks for picking up the net tonight. As you know, I did it last week, but I do need to go and do some other things that are around here tonight. But it's not so bad. I think the heat index got up over 110 over here today. It didn't feel quite as bad, but technically it was that high. So looking forward to a little rain as long as it doesn't all come down at once. And I'm thinking that probably the stations over on the other side of the river, a lot of them are probably trying to dodge the storms that's coming through their area right now. So it's probably why we're not hearing a lot of folks from over that way. Yeah, the power poles, apparently there is a right way and a wrong way to do it if you want to have interoperability. Apparently there's a Racy's Aries way to connect those up. So PowerWorks has some great information about how to make them standard according to them. So I use power poles. My least favorite is the wide variation in the teeny tiny coaxial power leads on all the kinds of equipment I got from Radio Shack over the years, for example. I don't really understand why they have to be so many different sizes. It's very annoying. But I try and put power poles on everything these days. And I would suggest getting them from a radio distributor instead of off of Amazon to make sure you get the real deal. And get a box of them at a time. And that's good to share the crimper. It's very helpful. And also, Chris, I think I need to take a moment and maybe ask a couple questions about the upcoming events and stuff. I believe things on the 21st, according to the email I got from JD the other day, the 21st, not the 28th, as mentioned. And my understanding about the 3.5, it's 145-350. So as far as I know, it's up and running, but kind of hard to hit from over here. And I sure am looking forward to the tailgate fest. And got some real jet noise out here, the Quack Shack. I don't know if you can hear it. But anyway, Chris, thanks for taking on that tonight. Sure do appreciate you being out there. I'll pass it back to you, Net Control. KC3QQD.
All right, Eric, yeah, so the testing session got moved from the 21st to the 28th because that was the last day of the carnival over at the firehouse, and they thought parking would be a problem. So they moved breaking the other day. So that's why that got moved out. You're probably right. I probably scribbled down the wrong numbers for the repeater. It was, yeah, maybe it is 145.35. Probably is. Anyway, as soon as it comes up on the air and it's actually usable and stuff, we'll make an announcement that it is operational for general radio use and such. And I forgot. You had another question in there, didn't you?
I don't think so, other than I believe there's a right way to do power poles for interoperability with Aries and Racy's, but that might have been the other question you heard. Back to you.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. There absolutely is a Aries and Racy standard. As you're holding the wire and the plug facing away from you, the red is to the right, kind of, red right, returning type of thing. Anyway, red goes to the right with the little tongue down. In fact, I forget who actually posted. I think John N38K posted a picture of a gender bender where he had one that's when somebody makes one up the wrong way, you flip it around. It's not hard to mess them up because the little plugs, the little tabs, the shells will fit together into any one of 4 different combinations. So you can go vertical or horizontal, red to the right, red to the left, red top, red bottom, doesn't matter. But the RACI standard is red to the right when you're holding the wire and the plugs facing away from you. So I'll put a post on the Facebook page for that too, on what the RACI Aries standard is, so that if you do show up at an event and you need to plug into a battery or a power supply somebody's already got set up, you won't have to do any crazy swapping stuff around. Okay, so we'll be clear with KC3QQD. This is Chris, KB2SKP. It brings out a Jeff, KC8VFN. Good evening, sir. How's you doing?
For picking up the net this evening. I don't know if anybody mentioned it, because I've been doing a couple of things here this evening, but with the power poles, and the Anderson power poles are a good connector. It's just the way they snap together, they make a real positive contact, and I did go ahead and buy all the tools and an assortment of the things. I very, very rarely use it. If anybody ever wants to borrow it for a while, that's fine, and you can use my connectors too. I've got more than I need if you want to make some, but I know Grant says if he gets a radio in, the first thing he does is cut off the factory thing and put those on it. And I don't know what those connectors are called that come on like a Yaesu radio, that you've got the power cable, the DC power cord for the radio, and then it goes through that connector thing, whatever it is. Those things give a lot of trouble. I don't know how many people I've heard talk about that, so you got to really watch those. KC8VFN, back to control.
KM4KAF.
I despise the silly things, and I'm kind of like Grant. Most of the time, I just cut the darn things off, put power poles on them, and be done with it. And I don't know if it's the correct term, but I've heard them called Molex connections. And I think Molex is just actually a company that makes different types of connectors. And it's the little T-looking combination thing that the Yaesu uses. I've actually seen them on Linkos, and a couple Asden older radios had them too. They're if you don't ever have to take them apart, they're probably okay. But if you're one of those people that takes them apart and puts them back together a couple times, they can build up some corrosion, and I don't know what kind of metal they make them out of, but it's probably not the greatest. Whereas the power poles, and kind of like Eric said, I'm a big fan of the Anderson ones. The Zigu, Zayu, Tuzing, some other off-the-wall company that's selling them on Amazon. They are interoperable. The shells will fit, and if you put them on, they'll plug into regular power poles. But the little metal tabs are a lower quality metal, and they will give out over time, and they could cause some corrosion or similar metal fluid corrosion in there. So I'm not a big name brand type of guy, other than all my equipment's Yaesu and all my power poles are Anderson. Just because I go with what's reliable, and if it costs a couple extra bucks, I'm willing to pay for it to alleviate the hassles. Definitely go with the name brand. So, all right, Jeff, appreciate it. You stay cool out there. Don't be out there doing crazy stuff out in the garage and doing repeater stuff. Wait till it cools down and stay out of the weather. So. We'll be clear with KC8VFN. That brings in Arriva, KO4CUF. Good evening, ma'am. You keeping him out of trouble?
And everyone on the net, and trying to, Chris. It's not easy. But, I don't think I have any more to add on the power connectors. But one thing I was wondering is how everyone did on the 13 colonies. I know last week we talked about it, and everybody was kind of in the middle of working on it. But this was our first year of participating, and gosh, we really found it to be fun. It was almost like a treasure hunt. And it was also a really good experience working the different bands. especially for me. I've really got familiar with my band chart and switching over there quickly as possible. So I found it to also be a good learning. It was fun, but I also got to learn a lot with it. And we both, Jeff and I both got our clean sweep and the 3 bonus stations, so we're pretty happy with it. So thanks, Chris, for picking up the net. We do appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a good week, and I hope you stay kind of cool out there. 73 KO4 CUS back to KB2 SKP.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you guys got an opportunity to play with the 13 colonies. Yeah, this is the fourth year or 5th year. I think it's my 5th year. It's Rachel's 4th year of doing it. And yeah, it's always a good time. And you're right. It's like a treasure hunt and trying to figure out where they're at. And sometimes like a couple of them are operating on more than just 20 and 40 meters. Some of them are down on 15 meters. Some are on 17. Saw them pop up a couple times on 10 meters, but I don't think I was ever to hear them. But they were bouncing around trying to do what they could with the band conditions. And you know, it brings out the best and the worst. You get some crazy operators out there that just don't want to be, you know, follow the rules of the road. They're just noisy. But you have some great the station operators like Mike and Brian over at Calvert County, who's another Maryland station, and Carol was down there. She was the one for I picked her up for Virginia, and actually picked up Jason down there in North Carolina. He was my K2J or whichever one it was. So yeah, we had a great time. Both Rachel and I did get a clean sweep. We did have to kind of cheat a little bit. We had to go on the digital modes and FT4 and FT8 to get the Great Britain and France bonus stations, but we were able to get the rest of them. And, it's a lot of fun. It's not a high-paced or a fast-paced contest. It's kind of like Parks on the Air, but kind of a different flavor, but same kind of thing. But anyway, thanks for being here tonight, Reba. We'll see what anybody else has got to say about 13 colonies. We'll let them do reach later. I know Jim's got some stories to tell, so we can go back and grab him in a little bit, too. So for now, we'll be clear with KO4CUF, and that brings down to Mike, our other 13 colony operator. Thank you, sir, for all your service. Entry KUN. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Chris and everybody on the net, thank you so much for picking it up and running with it. Great topic and great direction going forward. We do appreciate you covering it. Always good to have others pick it up. If anybody else wants to join in, let us know. We'll get you a copy of the script, and you can do it as little or as much as you like. 13 colonies was a blast. Thanks everybody for participating, because it's no fun without the pile-ups. I know from Maryland, we had just shy of 17,000 contacts. I had a little just shy of 2,500 myself. Probably 3/4 of those were digital. I would get on digital, and I couldn't get off. Everybody wanted digital, so we had a couple good runs on phone, but for the most part, we hung out on FT8, 40 meters, 20 meters, and just served up Maryland from there. So it was, again, another great event, and the band was really kind of pretty good. 40 held together for me personally really well, to the point where I hardly had any 80-meter contacts, because I think I was able to cover Maryland, D.C., Virginia, and Delaware stations looking for Maryland just fine on 40. So I was really surprised by that. Let me reset here real quick. Kind of my take on 13 colonies. Pretty good group this time. Nothing really vulgar or nasty or out of the woodwork, although I know there were some experiences like that out there. I had a great time chatting with I think it was 13-year-old ham up in New York, General. He was participating in 13 colonies. Talked really super nice. I probably had a 5-minute QSO with him in the middle of all the chaos, and I'll say all the other operators just, they didn't try to walk on top of him or cover him up or anything. They just let us have that little QSO, and his sister was also 10 years old and had her tech license. So but she wasn't one, unfortunately. So that's kind of the highlight of our 13 colonies. As power poles and supplies go, power poles are great. I use them in the mobile. In the shack, I actually use a marine fuse block with ring terminals. I found it works better for me for permanent installs. Connections back to my Astron power supply. Although you do have to watch over time, they will ring terminals will back themselves loose, and you can get kind of arcing and low voltage, high resistance, and radios do all kinds of funny things. As far as grounding or fusing the ground on mobile installs, correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's a reason behind it. I've read it, and I think it has to do with preventing current other devices in the vehicle that have high current loads, the starter, the blower motors, maybe electric windows or electric seats, from feeding back through the radio should a bad ground develop somewhere in the radio, because most mobile installs, through the antenna are grounded, and that can, if that device sees that ground path, it can try to flow through the transceiver. If something, if, say for instance, you've got a bad ground when you go to crank the engine, and it could potentially feed through your mobile radio and do some bad things to the traces and transistors and all inside. So that fuse is there, I believe, to try to prevent that. I may be wrong, but I think that's the rationale behind it, because like everybody else, I've questioned it for years, and I did some research and digging, and I think that's what I came up with. So anyway, great topics tonight. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for picking it up, Chris. Great to hear everybody on here, and great to talk to all those that we were able to put in the K2F log. 7-3s for now, and 3K Edmund.
All right, Mike, appreciate you being here tonight, and all you did for the 13 colonies. I know that it's all volunteer. You guys put in your time and your equipment and everything, and we so greatly appreciate it, all the guys. And wow, 17,000, that's incredible. I know I saw the GB13 guy said he had something like 6,000 or 9,000. I forget what the heck it was, but it was big with all the people that are participating. And it's great, that it's getting that much attention. I know it started out small, and each year it gets bigger and bigger. And poor Ken, he drives himself nuts for the next 11 months printing certificates out for everybody. And he does such a wonderful job on them, and it's wonderful. We definitely appreciate it. As far as the ground on the fuse on the ground, that's plausible enough to be believable. Now that you say that seems to be along the lines of what I had read as well. That it's more for a backfeed, getting power to the ground side, but I'm not sure how it would blow the fuse. But I don't know. Maybe you're supposed to put a lighter fuse on that side. I don't know. We'll have to. More research is required. Oh darn! We'll have to go read words and such. Maybe bust out a book or two. But good stuff. And thanks for being here tonight, Mike. And we definitely had a good time with 13 colonies, and that was fantastic. That there was a couple times where I was out there, and a while would come on, and somebody would be sitting there, and they would just talk for a couple of minutes, and everybody actually did. They did play nice. They let the operator take a break, or a couple of the operators are smart enough to say, hey, where are you at? Thanks for being here. This is a station. And gave him a little bit of a spiel to kind of give himself a break from the crazy chaos in the ears. I'm sure that would drive you nuts after a while. So I think next year each year I try to challenge myself with something. One year I did it all digital. Another one I tried to do QRP. I think next year I'm going to do them all on the tube rig on the 101 and see if I can do that. But anyway, thanks for being here tonight, Mike. Appreciate you checking in and for all you do to keep the net going. And we'll be clear with N3KUN. All right, that brings us down to the bottom of the list. This is Chris, KB2SKP for Grant's Elmer Net. Is there any additional check-ins for the net? Come now.
This is Alpha Charlie 3, Charlie Uniform. Neil, Great Mills, not echoing.
KM4KAF.
All right, Net recognizes AC3CU. Neil, good evening, sir. You're our tail gunner. We've been talking about power poles and 13 colonies and, well, whatever comes to mind. I don't know if you've been listening along, but we've been discussing different power connections, specifically power poles, but what are your favorites and least favorites? Do you have any thoughts on how to connect a radio up to a power source?
Good evening, KB2SKP. This is AC3CU. Good evening, Chris, everyone on the net. Sorry it's a little late. I had a little trouble with computers here. To my power meter box, so I couldn't connect the antenna up. But I've got some power poles on my radios. I didn't find them difficult to put together. And they seem to be working real good. I've used various means to connect to radios. Most of the Motorola radios came with a power cord that had a connector already on one end. You just had to put ring connectors on the other end for the battery. They work real good. Unfortunately, they were hard to find to replace if you had to, if one failed on you. I have used Molex connectors, and the ones I've used that were all white. They were anywhere from 2 pins to 6 pins. I don't think I got anything higher than 6 pins, and most of the time they were used to connect audio, main audio connections between things. But other than that, I didn't get out of 13 colonies this year. I'm definitely going to have to see if I can get out of that there next year. It's been fun. Been listening to all everybody's comments on it. It sounds like great fun. So with that, Chris, I'm going to send it back to you. It's AC3CU.
All right, Neil, thanks for being there. And, yep, that's what I thought. The Molex connectors were the ones with the pins on them, the little white blocks. And, yeah, I've seen them with I think that the biggest one I've seen is 6 or maybe 8. But I think 6 was the biggest one I'd seen on some of the HF rigs and some of the older radios. But no, I think anybody, they look at it, if it's a white block with some kind of a connector in it, they say, oh, it's a Molex. And that's just kind of like, well, no, that's an actual trade name. But not good stuff. And yeah, I agree that the power poles just seem to be simple, and they're easy to find, they're easy to use, and they seem to be universal. Since I guess the mid '90s or late '90s, they came out, and the Aries Races group adopted them first for interoperability for all their equipment, and everybody just kind of glommed onto it. And it's been pretty standard way to connect ham radio gear up to a power source. But good stuff. So we'll be clear with AC3CU for now, and that brings down to the bottom of the list again. Any additional check-ins for the net? Come now. Okay, any additional comments, questions, current concerns, or anybody want to tell their stories about the 13 colonies that we missed? Come now.
Yeah, KB2SKP, this is KB1YZ. I'll give a little summary of what I did.
I was kind of hoping you're still in there, Jimmy. I couldn't let everybody know how you, what your accomplishment was. That's something to be proud of.
All right, I'll start. I think the first day that I worked 13 colonies was July 3rd. And I did what I could. I picked up a few on CW, a few on sideband, and 1 or 2 on FT8. But my goal for the for this year was to do all the states in CW. And I was having trouble. I was sending slow code, probably 15 to 20 words a minute with a straight key. And not many people were coming back to me. And I realized that by the time I was done sending my call sign, the station, the 13 Colony station, was already reporting another station that had given him high speed back. So I got out my manual for the Elecraft K3 that I've got. Let me let it drop here for a second. Okay, I'm back. Got the manual out, and I figured out how to program the Memory 1, Memory 2, and Memory 3 recorded message buttons. And I had to use my iambic paddle to send using Morse code to record those messages. So M1, Memory 1, I put in my call sign. Memory 2, I put in my report, which is 599 or 5NN, MZ for Maryland. And then M3, I put in TU for thank you, and 73. And, I tried that with a couple of stations that were going pretty fast, and I cranked up my speed to 25 words a minute, and I was able to pick them up a lot quicker. I made some mistakes. I forgot to hit the box button, which means I was sending to myself. Nothing was going out, but I realized that I had to make sure the box button was on. I worked 6 different bands. I got all the states plus the William Penn on CW, and I got the TM13 COL from France on CW. I couldn't get the GB13 because it wasn't available, but I found them on sideband the last half hour of the contest, and I worked them on 20 meters after about maybe 20 attempts. So that's my story. This is KB1YZ.
Well, thanks, Jim. Appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, that's definitely awesome that you learned a little bit, you experimented around a lot, and you accomplished something. And you definitely did something a lot of us are envious of. One of these days I will get Morse code beat into my head so that I'll be able to play on CW, or at least be able to pick out the repeater IDs, or be able to at least send my call sign. I mean, I could do SOS, but that's about the extent of my CW experience. So congratulations on that. Good job. You really did a wonderful thing there, and you can definitely pat yourself on the back. That's something to be proud of. Okay, we'll be clear with KB1YZ. Is there any other stations want to give a quick recheck on how they did with 13 colonies? Okay, well, I guess we'll move on down the list here. Let's see, are there any other questions, comments, or rechecks before we close the net? Okay, hearing none, this will conclude our weekly net. I want to thank everyone who participated. Also, thanks to the sponsors and maintainers for allowing us the use of the repeaters and Echolink. Please visit the Grant Elmer Net Facebook page for additional information about the repeater system. We look forward to hearing you next Wednesday right here on this here repeater system at 7:30 p.m. At this time, we'll return the frequency to normal amateur use at 0022 GMT. As Grant always says, God bless America, our troops, and our Elmer Net family. Good night to all. This is Chris, KB2SKP Clear.
KM4KAF.